that Vianney said about himself yesterday when he introduced himself? Test to see whether you were paying attention. He has 2 daughters. Excellent. Yes. 2 beautiful daughters. That was one of the things he told us about himself. What else did he tell us about himself? That he teaches history. Not unless everything's changed. No? What do you teach? One of the lecturers here. Okay, so he's one of the lecturers here. He's got 2 beautiful daughters. What else did he tell us about himself? Hey? He's married. Yes, he told us about his wife. Not Chantel. What? Is it? I'm learning so much about you today. You teach history and you have another wife? What? Righto. Okay, so yep, he told us that he was married, that he has 2 beautiful daughters, that he lectures here. There was at least one other thing he said about himself.
I think he teaches also New Testament teaching. I didn't yesterday put it in, but it was around it.
Something about his teaching, something about who he is in his essence, he said. This. They don't listen to anything. This is my problem, right? Every day. You guys got to listen more, right? He's a doctor. I don't think he told us that, but Mike wanted to re-emphasize that to us today. He's very smart. Yes, he did. Sinner saved by grace. Do you not remember that? You should remember that, right? That's what we all are. That's how he introduced himself. My name is Vianney Sindo, sinner saved by grace, married to Renelle, 2 beautiful girls, and I lecture here at GWC. Did I miss anything? See, this is what happens when you listen, people, right? You gotta listen, right? Okay, but he left something out, right? He left something out. And that is one of his roles here at GWC, because he doesn't just lecture here at GWC. He is my boss, right? He is the head of the Biblical Studies department, right? And this is Vianney's role here, or one of Vianney's roles here at college. And it's as the head of the Biblical Studies department that I asked Vianney to come back again this morning and just to say hi to you guys and talk to you a little bit about the kind of the department that he oversees, the Biblical Studies department, which obviously includes the languages, right? And all your Old Testament studies and all your New Testament studies and your Hebrew study and your Greek study and all that kind of stuff. And just talk a little bit about languages, how they work throughout the curriculum, what it's going to be like for you guys as you work your way through GWC, and just give you a bit of a heads up about how everything works. So, back over to Vianney quickly to give his head of biblical studies spiel.
Yeah, I hope you can hear me.
If you stand there and you speak
Can you
there,
hear me? I think you can hear me, right?
bit muffled, but you can hear.
Okay, so Steve said I'm the head of biblical studies. I'm still trying to find out what that means or something. But how many of you know about the Reformation? That will be weird, right? Because they say I'm head of biblical studies, but I'm asking you about Reformation.
You are a church history.
Okay, Reformation. So we are a Reformed Evangelical Anglican College, George Whitefield College. One of the things that was a spirit of the Reformation, which helped the church actually to rediscover God's word, was a phrase I said at Fontes, going back to the sources. And the reason why we want you guys, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes guys seem not gender inclusive, okay, you ladies and gentlemen, to learn the biblical studies, is the fact that we want you to discover God's word for yourself. Because if the church has the specialists, the doctors, who interpret scriptures, we know from history that can be disastrous from the church. So that's why you are learning Greek. And I know for many of you, maybe you are starting to think, what's the point of it all? It's just a headache. But like all good things, you need hard work. I promise you it gets easier, and it actually gets exciting. What you can do with biblical languages, it just opens a test. You look at scripture, I never noticed that before. I got stuck in one verse for my entire PhD. One verse for almost 2 years, writing, and that's how exciting it is. Now, for some of you, and you know what that verse, most of it I focus on, was in Christ. But when you look at the language, there's so much you can do with it. So that's why, as a college, we actually value and prize biblical languages, because we think it's going to help the church. It's going to help you to grow in your love for Jesus. It's not just an academic exercise. It's you discovering for yourself what God has said to us through His Word. I used to like to visit the old age home when I was a minister in town. And you see the spouses, let's say one passed away, and then there's this one, who keeps on going back to the letters the other one actually wrote for them, and the excitement that brought to them. But here you have God's word to you. And isn't that wonderful? You can hear even the language that it was written in it. And you understand it. You can understand the intricacies of it. I mean, Mike, this morning, for example, talked about how the NIV made the verse actually to almost be polite. And that's what you uncover and discover when you study the languages. And that's why we emphasize the languages as the Biblical Studies department. But we are not only emphasizing the languages are important for you, and we are going to push you for the next 3 years on them. But if some of you have tried to do exercises, training, the first month is hard. You want to give up. Your heart feels like it's about to stop working. But the more you push through it, the more you actually enjoy running. You know, like I'm starting to get there when it comes to running. But I used to hate running. But the more hard you work, you know, run for 2 minutes, walk for 2 minutes, run for 2 minutes. You actually get to experience it, you get to love it, and that's what happens with the languages. The more you just, those exercises a day, you actually get to the rhythm of it. So this is why, for us as a Biblical Studies department, the language is a big component. But not only the languages in isolation, we want you ultimately to understand God's word. And this is why you are going to have different genres as well being taught over the 3 years. You are going to do Psalms with Nathan. You are going to do Samuel with Samuel White at the back. You are going to do the Pentateuch with people who have experiences in ministries as well. So not only the so-called gurus, academic, but people who have pastoral ministries who bring that to you as they explain God's word. Because we want you to learn as much as you can from those who have gone before us to help us to understand the word better so that we can be better equipped for the word. You are going to have both the introduction to the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament modules, so that what am I dealing with it here as well? And that's part of the Biblical Studies department, and that's what we are here for you. And then there's a big question. You will notice that but some people on second year, they talk about stream A and stream B. What is that all about? And this is where things tend to be complicated. But let me reveal a philosophy I have when it comes to education. I've learned this from Jonathan Jensen. Jonathan Jensen said, if we expect more from students and we tell them you can do it, most students will arise to the challenge. So I hope that because there's a stream B option available, you don't just think, which is the easier way. As a college, even if you go to stream B, which I'll explain, it's not like you're going to stop doing Greek. We are going to push you hard, whether you're in stream A or stream B, to understand the studies. So all of you this semester will be doing stream A of Greek, where you are going to love Duff, where you are going to soak Duff, where you are going to dream about Duff. How many of you have started dreaming about vocab? I mean, it's nice, isn't it? Isn't it nice, like in your dreams where you're dreaming? I remember the first time it happened. Like, it's actually good. Like the fact that in my dreams I can dream about Greek. So you are going to do that up until June exams. But we are aware that God has gifted us differently as people. Some of us, God has gifted us to be able to understand all these things, how they fit together, and at times they even come easily. But some of us have challenges. So what happens when it comes to June exams, when you have written everything, some of you may not do well, so we are aware of this as a college, and we want to help you, and this is why the Stream B is there. So what tends to happen, if now you didn't do well, in the Stream A section, Steve is Mr. Numbers. And Steve did this before he even studied theology. He has some complicated formula where he looks at what you have done in Stream A, whether it's enough for you to actually pass as a Stream B. But what tends to happen, if you fail, then you'll write what is called a Stream B supplementary exam. But because it's a Stream B, it doesn't mean it's that, it's a walk in the park. You are still expected to understand the Greek, to work with the Greek, but you get a better assistance in doing Greek. Does that make sense for everyone? So I'm not sure, Steve, did I miss anything?
No, just that what happens at the end of first year going through to second year, and
Okay.
what do the languages look like going forward for second and third year? Is this all we're doing with Greek?
No. So you actually, Greek keeps on growing, right? So after your first year, you know DAF. Now that becomes a foundation, like a building. So it's going to be a building that you build on. The next year, you are going to be expected to learn new Greek rules, but assuming when you're in the second year that you know DAF. So all that vocab, even during December holiday, you don't say that was first year, it's gone. Next year is actually assumed you know it. And then we'll give you a different vocab, for example, to do. In John's Gospel, there's going to be a list, it's called special vocab. Now you're adding on that house. And then when it comes to the second semester, you get another special vocab for 1 Corinthians, which builds on John's Gospel. And then by the third year, you'll get a Roman special vocab and you get a Hebrew special vocab. And by that time, I think, Steve, you, Mr. Sams, you have known about 90% of the New Testament.
You'll know every word that occurs more than 19 times in the New Testament.
There. Of the New Testament words. So you just leave 1%. And then as you study more of God's word, and hopefully by then you'll start having your quiet times in Greek, then you can look at those words, and then you'll get all of them, as you call it. It's really easy, and there's programs that can even help you in your ministry. Whatever you do, one of the dangers when you do Greek is actually the Easter break. Oh, sorry, Steve. Whatever you do not stop your Greek during Easter. Because many students do so well in summer school, so well the first term, come that break, they put the Greek textbook aside, and then they come the next term, it's gone. This is something new. You need to build that habit and maintain that habit. And then by the time you get to the second term, if you have that habit and you maintain it, your marks tend to progress well. And then again, June holidays, 30 minutes of Greek a day will do well for you to get you ready for the next semester as well. But as a department, we are looking forward to working with you. Again, we are excited that you are here, and we are excited by the fact that you are excited about the languages, even though some of you are still reluctant about the languages. I actually met a guy who was before me at the colleges. He hated the languages when he was here. So I met him like, what do you think about it? He said, listen, man, I am so grateful of those languages at GWC. Because now I'm in ministry and I see the value of them. In fact, I went back and we used to use Wenham. I went back, I read Wenham again, and I caught up with the languages. It has made a huge difference in my ministry. So we hope that you will not actually get to the point where you need to go back, but rather you'll maintain so that you get the most out of it as well. But if you have any questions, I'm available for you. I'll be in my office. You can come and chat with me. And Steve is available as well. And most people in our department, as a college, we have an open door policy. Of course, now there's a little bit of COVID. It's an open door policy with masks where we do stuff properly as well. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, Gary. Thank you. Do you teach these guys?
Nope.
Not in first year. They won't see you till second year. That's right, isn't it? Yeah.
But it get easy from there.
Yeah.
We make Steve do all the hard work because I can't do the stuff. Look at that. So you guys are lucky that some of us were not blessed now. I hope Jonathan is not listening to some of my lectures. I have it been nice. All I can say, I saw you guys playing games. I'm thinking, watching that. If I had done, I would be so happy.
I'm sort of disturbed about the amount of people who are saying, I saw you guys. Like the whole, hello world, the whole world's watching us. I don't know. I got an email from a guy in Uganda the other day saying, hey, loving your Greek lectures. I'm like, what? Who's watching out there? Send me an email. Say hi. If you're sneaking in on my Greek lectures, come to college. That's what you should do. You want to learn this stuff, come here. Be real about it. All right. Well, great to have Vianney come and talk to you. It's great to have guys like him around leading us in the Biblical Studies department here at college. You know what's about to happen. You know the drill. We can't put it off any longer. I should have asked whether you had any questions for Vianney before he left. Do you have any questions for Vianney now that he has left? Let's see if I can answer them. Okay, vocab cards away. I don't want to see them. Duff away. Hide. Away with you, Duff. Vocab test that counts 1%. It's enough. You can keep working on it. 1% will get you up. If you keep going and you add them all up, then they'll be worth it. But the best thing it does at the moment, it gives you an idea of where you're at and how much work you still need to do before Friday. That's what we're on about here. Who thinks more time is going to make a difference? Okay, all right. I want to cram you for time, so I'll give. Okay, I'll give you 1 more minute. That seems fair to me. 1 more minute. All righty. Let's call that a day. Make sure you got your name on the top of your page, please, please, please. Put your pens so that there is nowhere near you and you are not tempted to do anything. Out of your hands, out of the way. Josh, out of your hands, out of the way. Yeah, just leave it. Don't write anything. I'll mark it. Garang, get that pencil right off, out of the way, gone. All right. All right. What do we got? Logos. I'm so nice to you. Logos, word. Pros plus the accusative is to or towards. Sabbaton is Sabbath. I am nice to you. Poneros is evil or wicked. Pus is how. Para plus the dative is beside. Daimonion is a demon. I am nice to you. Parakaleo is I exhort, or I encourage, or I request, or I comfort, or any of those words. Autos, that's our third person pronoun. He. She, it, they. Zetio, I seek. Kata plus the genitive is against. Synagogue is a synagogue. Pistos, faithful, believing. Let me just say this, by the way. I should have said this before the test. When it's a verb, write down I, whatever the verb is. Yeah? Okay? Right? Do that all the time with your vocab. When it's a verb, write down I, whatever the verb is. Because it reminds me, because pistos because a lot of you are getting confused between pistos and pistuo. We have pistuo in our vocab test yesterday, and a lot of you said pistuo, faithful, believing, or something like that. And now maybe some of you have said pistos, I believe, or something, right? You're getting confused between verbs and adjectives and nouns. That's quite common, right? But one of the ways that you can fix that is whenever it's a verb, make sure you write I, whatever the verb is that you're doing. I believe, right? Or whatever. Upago, I depart. Katoikio, I dwell, or live, or inhabit. Phone is a sound or a voice. Christos is Christ. I am nice to you. Hupo plus the accusative is under. Paralambano, I take or I receive. And poieo is I do or I make. Okay? Everybody happy enough with that? Anybody want to help us out with some mnemonics? Some memory tricks? Any of those words that that are going to help you remember how of them? Help us out? Help each other out here? Come on, don't be shy. Yeah, Josh. Hupago? Up and go. Yeah? Hupago, up and go. I'm going to leave. I'm going to depart. Nice. Excellent. What else? Any others? Yeah. Phone. It's a phone, because that's how you get sounds and voices on your phone. Right? Phone. Exactly right. That is why we call it a phone, by the way. It's a Greek word, right? Coming through to English. Yeah? But yeah? Excellent. Any others? Yeah? Parakaleo.
The para part sounds a bit like parable.
Parable.
Jesus in his parables would exhort or encourage.
Okay, all right. So parables help encourage and exhort us. Parakaleo is encourage or exhort. Nice. All these things work, right? They help. They help. And they help you get it in, and when you share it with each other, it helps other people get it in as well. Okay, what would the dative plural of nomos be? Nomos looks like a logos type word to me, because you don't just need to know what it means, you need to know where it belongs and how it behaves. And then it's logos, logon, logu, logo, logoi, logus, logon, logois. Dative plural, logois, so it'll be nomois, is what that would be. What would be the present active indicative third person plural of didasco? Keep giving me the last ones. Didasco looks like a luo type verb to me. So luo, luas, luai, luomen, luete, luusen. So it's going to be third person plural didaskusen. Yeah? Didaskusen. What would be the present active indicative second person singular of laleo? Well, laleo looks like phileo to me, so it's philo, philais. So it's just lalais. Second person singular, lalais. And then give psukes its correct definite article. Well, that looks like a genitive singular feminine noun to me. So it better have the genitive singular feminine article, which would be tes. Yeah? Tes, yes. Yeah. Cool? All right? You know exactly how you went. You know what you did right. You have an idea of how much you still need to do to smash it out on Friday when it's not worth 1% anymore, but it's worth 20%. We'll talk more about that today. But now, hand them to me so that I have an idea of where you're at and how much work you still need to do. And what you do? Put your name on it? Yeah, make sure your name's on it. We'll talk more about Friday a little bit later today for those of you who are starting to panic and wonder what Friday's going to look like and what on earth is Steve going to ask me to do on Friday. We'll tell you this afternoon. All right, awesome, thank you. Okay, so again, who was paying attention? When you go into second year and third year, what New Testament books will you be studying in the New Testament department here at George Whitfield College? Vianney just told you. John's Gospel, Romans, Hebrews, and 1 Corinthians. All right? They're the four kind of books that we focus on in our New Testament studies here. You can't look at every book in the Bible, but the idea is that the skills you will acquire as you work through those texts, and by the way, Vianney didn't quite explicitly say it, we'll be working through those texts in the Greek text. So you do John's Gospel next year, we look at the Greek texts of John's Gospel, not the English text, right? All your studies from after this year in the New Testament are all going to be in Greek, right? Because, as he said, this is all going to be assumed knowledge by the end of this year. Which means you have to pass Greek at the end of this year if you want to go through to second year, because you can't fail Greek and then go to second year, because everything we do in second year is on the Greek text, right? So yeah, John's Gospel, 1 Corinthians, Romans, and Hebrews. Now, of those four, I get to teach you John's Gospel, and I'm just explaining that because at the moment it seems like all our devotions are from John's Gospel, and you might know why, right? Because I spend a lot of time in John's Gospel. So today's devotion is John chapter 3, verses 1 to 15, fairly well-known passage, fairly well-known story. But if you want to turn to John chapter 3, 1 to 15, it'd be great for someone to read that out loud. I will promise you we'll do some devotions from other parts of the New Testament soon, not just John's Gospel. But someone who's got that ready for us, John chapter 3, 1 to 15, want to read it out in a big loud voice? Melissa, you've got it open there. Would you read for us? You're right up the front, so everyone's behind you, so you have to speak extra loud.
Now there was a certain man among the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler among the Jews, who came to Jesus at night and said to him, Rabbi, we know that you have come from God as a teacher, for no one can do these signs that you do unless God is with him. Jesus answered, I assure you and most solemnly say to you, unless a person is born again, he cannot see and experience the kingdom of God. Nicodemus said to him, how can a man be born when he is old? He cannot enter his mother's womb a second time and be born, can he? Jesus answered, I assure you and most solemnly say to you, unless one is born of water and the Spirit, cannot enter the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. Do not be surprised that I have told you you must be born again. The wind blows where it wishes, and you hear its sound, but you do not know where it is coming from and where it is going. So it is with everyone who is born, so it is with everyone who is born of the Spirit. Nicodemus said to him, how can these things be possible? Jesus replied, you are the teacher of Israel, and yet you do not know nor understand these things? I assure you and most solemnly say to you, we speak only of what we know and testify about what we have seen, and you do not accept our testimony. If I told you earthly things and you do not believe, how will you believe and trust me if I tell you heavenly things? No one has gone up into heaven, but there is one who came down from heaven, the Son of Man. Jesus, just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the desert, so must the Son of Man be lifted up.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Now, as I said, pretty well-known passage, discussion here between Jesus and Nicodemus, followed by one of the Bible's most famous verses, God so loved the world, John 3:16, coming up right next. But there's two things I want to highlight from this discussion with you this morning. One that we've touched on earlier, one that we want to, kind of ideas that we've been looking at and floating around, but just more examples of it. The first is in verse 7 there. And it's what we talked about the other day, right? It's this discussion, this difference between the singular and the plural you, okay? And so, look, we had a whole devotion about this the other day. I'm not going to spend too much time focusing on it now, but just to highlight that the same thing actually happens here, right? You would think when you're reading that, Nicodemus comes to Jesus at night, and it's night, and it's like it's almost under the cloud of darkness, and it's just him, and it's just this conversation between Jesus and Nicodemus. But right there in the middle, Jesus says, verse 7, he says, "You should not be surprised that I said to you, singular, that you, plural, must be born again." Right? Okay, so again, this is really fascinating, okay? It's like Jesus is opening up the conversation. Jesus and John, right, are opening up the conversation for us. It's not just that Nicodemus needs to be born again. It's that everybody needs to be born again. You, plural. And we are part of that you, plural, that we read Jesus say to us. You got to understand, you need to be born again. It's not just Nicodemus that needs it. We all need it, right? We need to be born again. And it's almost like Jesus is having this conversation, and it's like he wants other people to listen into it. Again, parents do this all the time, right? If you're a parent, you'll know this, or maybe your kids or whatever. But parents do this all the time. They have a conversation over here with someone, hoping that their kids are listening to it. Yes, we do pack up our toys after we've finished playing with them, don't we? Right? We do this, right? We're going to hope that they hear, and this is the kind of thing going on. Jesus is having this conversation with Nicodemus, but there's a broader audience in mind, right? We're supposed to hear. You, plural, need to be born again. So we did devotions on that the other day. So just highlighting it, that the same thing is happening here as well. But the other day we did a devotion on semantic overlap, yeah? Synonyms, words that mean very similar things being switched and changed in the context of the passage. Well, here John does something similar but different. This time, John has a habit, and this is another thing that you see John doing all throughout his gospel quite a lot, of deliberately choosing a word that has a beautiful, ambiguous meaning. The one word that can mean two different things, and kind of seems to mean two different things in the one context. So in this case, it's anothen. Anothen. You shouldn't be surprised that I said to you that you must be born anothen. Yeah? That you must be born again. And the good news is that anothen means again. Of course it does, right? It means born again. And, you know, throughout history, we've translated this word, born again. You've got to be born again. Are you born again? You'll be born again, brother, right? Okay? And this is right, okay? We want to be born again. That's right. And Nicodemus gets it. What's talking about born again? I've got to go back into my mum. This doesn't make any sense, right? Okay, but the beautiful thing about this word, the beautiful irony of it, the twist in it, the cleverness of it, the delicious ambiguity of it, is that anothen also means from above. Oh, wow, indeed, right? Anothen actually means from above. So is John or is Jesus saying that you shouldn't be understand? You need to be born again, or is he saying you don't understand? You need to be born from above, right? God needs to give birth to you. Back in the prologue, John chapter 1, verse 14, right? Verse 13, sorry. Right? John will say that Jesus will give the right for people to become sons of God to those who believe in his name. You don't become a son of God by birth. You don't become a son of God by right, by your family, but you are born of God, right? That's how you become a child of God. And this is the idea here, anothen. Is it being born again, or is it being born from above? Is it a God above birth that you need? Or is it being born again from above? Is it just kind of everything? It's all kind of there in that one word. And it's just, as I said, it's just this beautifully, deliciously ambiguous kind of word where all the connotations of that word make sense in the context. And they're all kind of there for you in the Greek. It's just kind of left. When you know Greek, you read Greek, you're just kind of sitting there going, is it above, is it again, is it above again? It's all of it. It's anothen. right? But once we got to translate that into English, we have to pin it down to one word, right? Because we don't have a word in English that means all those same things at the same time, right? And this is beautiful, right? It's really cool. It's really clever. And as I said, John has a habit of doing this a fair bit throughout his gospel. He tends to like doing it. And there's another example of it in this passage that we just read out as well, verse 14. The verb, the vocab word hiding behind those verbs is one of my favourite verbs in John's gospel. It's hupsoo. But just as Moses hupsooed the snake in the desert, so also it's necessary for the Son of Man to be hupsooed. Right? Now, hupsoo means to lift up, right? Just as Moses lifted up the snake in the desert. Do you know the story? Numbers chapter 21, right? He got a bronze snake, he put it on a pole, and he physically lifted it up, right? And hupsoo means that, to physically lift something up and put it on a pole, right? Just as the snake was physically lifted up and put on a pole, so also it's necessary for the Son of Man to be physically lifted up and put on a pole? Well, yeah. What's he talking about? It's not a hard question. What's he talking about? He's talking about his death, his crucifixion, right? He's actually going to be physically lifted up and put on a pole, right? On a cross and hung up on a cross, right? He's going to be physically lifted up. But here's the beauty of it. Hupsoo has this kind of dual meaning. Because it doesn't just mean to be physically lifted up on a pole like what we did with the snake, to just make something higher. It means to kind of metaphorically be lifted up, to be exalted. Yeah? To be exalted. So here's the question. What's John saying? What's Jesus saying here? Just as Moses lifted up the snake in the desert, so the Son of Man has to be lifted up, or so the Son of Man is going to be exalted. Well, this is a nice pun on the word here, a nice play on the word. Or even more than that, is it both at the same time? The idea that actually when Jesus is physically lifted up on a cross is the moment when he's actually going to be exalted. We don't have to separate the two in Greek, right? Because he's just going to be hupsooed. It's both, all at the same time. This beautiful, delicious, deliberate, ambiguous word there that carries all that meaning in it. You don't have to choose in Greek because it's all there. He's lifted up and glorified. It's hupsooed. But again, we've got to translate that into English. We've got to pin it down. So we just say lifted up. He's going to be lifted up. And we kind of think, well, what does that mean? Oh, it probably just means the cross, right? But it means so much more than that at the same time. This idea of his glorification, right, is all kind of tied up in that hupsoo word. And certainly for John's gospel, the whole theme of glory, massive theme throughout John's gospel, culminates in Jesus' death on the cross, right? Now is the time for the Son to be glorified, says Jesus, when it comes to his execution, right? The night before it. This is what's going to happen, right? Father, glorify me with the glory that I had with you in the beginning, Jesus prays, hours before his arrest, right? This is the moment of glory for Jesus, his crucifixion, when he is lifted up on a pole. But it's also the moment where he is most exalted, most glorified as well, right? And it's all there in this beautiful, deliberate, ambiguous, glorious words that we have in Greek that we just don't have in English, or when we try and translate it into English, we have to make a choice because we don't have the same word in English that has all the same connotations and everything like that. And again, you're not going to pick that up when you read the English. Not easily, that's for sure, because of that reason. But this play on the Greek words and the meaning of the Greek words is there. And the Greek reader will get and understand and bring it to the text, and it gives us this more life and fresh insights. Because this is what it looks like to read the Bible in high definition, right? Okay? This is what you're going to see when you do these kind of things. So, comments, questions, thoughts on any of that stuff? Apart from, oh, wow. That's one of my favourite comments so far. I love it. It's exactly right. This is an oh wow moment, right? Because this is what you get when you read the Bible in high definition. You get wow moments. Exactly what Vianney was just saying here this morning, right? You get those wow moments and you think, I'm going to spend the next 3 years of my life writing a PhD on one verse, right? Okay, cool.
So when Jesus says, glorify me, when the time has come for the Son of Man to be glorified, is it the same?
No, it's not the same word. It's a different word. No, it's doxazo. It's the glory, yeah. It's a different word. But that exaltation idea is here in this hupso verb, yeah. Cool. Well, let me pray. Dear Lord God, we do thank you so much for the joy and the privilege that it is to be here and to learn Greek, not so that we can learn some dead language and be academics and all that, but so that we can know you better through your word, and as a result, love you more and be better equipped to serve you more. Lord, we thank you for your word, that you, in your mercy and goodness, have not left us in the dark, but you have spoken to us through your word. And as we've been reminded by Mike this morning, Lord, please, Lord, let your word lead over our lives. Let your word be our guide. Let your word be our rule. How we decide what's right and wrong, how we decide what's important and what's not. Let us not be influenced by the way the world sees leadership and power, but let us be shaped and molded by your word and your spirit, and we ask it in your name. But Lord, we thank you for the way that when we learn Greek, we can understand your word so much better, and we see some of these nuances and these oh wow moments. And this is what this is all about, understanding your word better, Lord. So it's been a long week. We're hitting the heights of it at the moment. Some of us are tired. Some of us might be a little bit despondent. Some of us are excited and enthralled. But Lord, please be with all of us and give us the energy, give us the motivation, give us the desire. Give us your spirit to work in us, to strengthen us for this task, because it is a good task for your glory and for your name's sake. Lord, we thank you that you are the kind of king that gets glorified in his execution. We thank you for the glory of the cross. And we thank you for you willing to do that for us. Please be with us today and strengthen us for the task, and we ask it in your name. Amen. Okay. All right, what are we going to do today? What are we going to do today? Where are we going to go in our magical Greek carpet ride? Right, well, for the last couple of days, we've been spending a fair bit of time in noun world, right? Okay? Last Friday, we looked at neuter nouns, and we looked at feminine nouns, and we looked at articles, and we looked at pronouns, and we did all that sort of stuff last Friday. And then Monday, we looked at prepositions, and they're kind of noun-like packages, right? And then yesterday, we looked at adjectives, and they're connected to nouns. And we met Amy, but most of our day was focused on adjectives. So for a long time, we've been in noun world, right? Okay? We learned some verbs all the way back on like Thursday. It seems like a year ago on Thursday. We learned luo and we learned phileo. But since then, we haven't really touched verbs at all. So today we need to go back into verb world, right? Today we're focusing on verbs, and we're going to spend a fair bit of time getting our head around verbs, and we're going to be learning more about verbs, right? And we're going to be learning more verbs, more paradigms. Yes, more paradigms are coming your way. Give you the heads up, right? But it's not all bad news. Some bad news, but not all bad news. Because for the last couple of days, this has been coming up at several different times throughout your translations, and at several different times, various different people have asked the question and raised it. And the issue is, what about the past, right? And all we've done at the moment is talked about present tense verbs. That's all we've done. We've talked about things happening now. We're in the moment, right? We're here and now. right? But what about the past? How do I speak about something that happened in the past in Greek? Or how do I speak about something that's going to happen in the future in Greek, right? And that's what we want to spend our time thinking about. That's what we want to focus our attention on a bit today, right? We're going to expand our knowledge and we're going to think about how Greek speaks about verbs in other tenses, past and future as well, particularly, right? That's what we're on about. But before we do that, let's just have a quick look at the form of the verb. You've seen a table that looks like this for the nouns, right? Remember, nouns had 3 columns, case, number, and gender. And we filled in all that table for the nouns. We've met it, it's all good. Now we want to start looking at this table for the verb, right? And as I said to you the other day when we had an exercise for your homework to parse the verb, right? There are 5 pieces of information that we want for each verb. We want the tense, the voice, the mood, the person, and the number. And the quicker you can get that in your head, that this is the way we speak about verbs, the better off you're going to be. Every verb you come across, you want to think what tense, what voice, what mood, what person, what number. When I say to you, speak to me about this verb in the way I like to be spoken to about verbs, which I will say more and more to you now as we're learning more about verbs, then this is what I'm asking you. I'm asking you to tell me what tense, voice, mood, person, and number it is. In that order. That's the way I like to be spoken to about verbs, yeah? This is the way we talk about verbs. Tense, voice, mood, person, and number. Now, person and number, I think we're okay with, yeah? We spent a fair bit of time talking about that the other day. We've been working through it in our practices and everything like that. There are 3 options for person. It's either first person, I, or we. It's either second person, you, singular or plural, or it's third person, he, she, or it, or they, right? First person, second person, or third person. There are options when it comes to person. I think we've got that. I think we're getting that. Yeah? And number, that's pretty easy as well. It's either singular or it's plural. Okay? That's where we're at with person and number. So that's okay. We're person and number, we're sorted on that front, I think. If you're still having troubles getting your head around that, that's fine. Come and talk to me about it. Don't stand there. Don't drown alone, right? Talk to your friends. Help them get your head around. Say, oh, just don't help me understand the number. Help me understand the person. Get your head around it. Make sure that you're on top of it. Okay? But that's I think we're okay with that. Everything that we've looked at so far has been the present active indicative. I keep saying that to you and saying, don't worry about it. Just everything's present active indicative. We'll talk about that more later. So what I mean now is the later, right? What I mean by present active indicative is that I mean the tense of our verb is present, the voice of our verb is active, and the mood of our verb is indicative. Everything so far has been present active indicative. Everything that we've looked at. Present active indicative. Present meaning, well, it's sort of happening now. It's unfolding. I am untying. You are learning. We are learning together. I am teaching you Greek. Right? I am going to the beach. I am falling asleep. No. We're not doing that. Right? Ooh. I'm not falling asleep. Right? Okay? But it's all present tense. Okay? That's what we mean by present so far. We'll come back to what that means because tenses mean something a little bit different in Greek than they do in English, but we'll come back to that. But that's what we're talking about, present. Active, voice, means that the subject is the one doing the verb. Okay, that's what we've done all the time. I untie. Steve threw. Right? The subject is the one doing the verb. That's what we mean when we say it's active voice. We'll come back, we'll learn a lot more about this sort of stuff later. We'll think more about it because there's a lot more to this table than what you can see right now. But I'm just telling you, active voice means the subject is the one doing the action of the verb. The subject is active, right? Doing it. As I said, you've just assumed that, right? Because that's everything we've done so far has been like that. And then indicative mood is just, it's the mood of description, right? It's the mood of just saying, this is how things are, this is what happened, this is what is happening, this is, that's the indicative mood, right? It's the kind of mood of description, if you want to think about it like that. It's just a simple mood of description. It describes what's happening. Okay, so far we've looked at the present active indicative. And everything we've looked at, every verb we looked at so far has been present, active, and indicative. But here's the reality of this table. It looks like this, right? It looks like this. There are lots of different moods in Greek that we're going to meet. There are a few other different voices in Greek that we're going to meet. There are lots of different tenses in Greek that we're going to meet, right? Okay, now before you panic, there are a lot of question marks on that table, right? Before you panic, we're not getting through that today, don't worry, right? In fact, for us to uncover all of those question marks is going to take us like towards the end of the year, okay? Okay, so just don't panic, but I'm just giving you the heads up. That's what that table is going to look like, right? Nothing up my sleeve here. I don't want to hide anything from you, full disclosure. This is where we're heading, right? As we work our way throughout the whole year and work our way throughout the whole of DUF, we're going to get to uncovering all of these question marks. But not today. Don't panic, right? All right? There's lots to do. We're going to have a whole year together where we can do this, right? But today we want to focus our attention on tense, okay? So we do want to uncover some of these question marks here when it comes to Greek tenses. That's what we want to do. We're going to stick with the active voice. We're going to stick with the indicative mood. But we do want to learn a little bit more about tenses today. All right? Now, as I said, we've been looking at the present tense verb, right? And that's why our luo paradigm has always said the present active indicative of luo, because we're always looking at the present tense verbs, right? And we're going to look at 3 more tenses today. 3 more tenses by the time we finish the day. We're going to learn 3 more tenses. We're going to learn what they mean, and we're going to learn how they behave. All right? So you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tenses in Greek, right? Okay, so by the end of today, we're going to have met 4 of them. We've already met the present tense, and we've got 3 new tenses that we're going to meet today. That's our job for today, right? Plus a few other things, right? 2 other tenses we'll come back to much later throughout the year. Got the present tense. The first new tense that we want to meet today is the future tense. And it's there for a reason. We'll come back to that in a second. But it's the future tense that we want to meet today. First up, we've got 2 others we're going to meet. But first up, we want to meet the future tense. And the reason why we're starting there is because the future tense is like the easiest one to get your head around, right? Okay? It's easy in terms of understanding what it means. So, if the present tense of luo is I am untying, then the future tense of luo is I will be untying, or I will untie, right? It's nice and simple. It's not hard to comprehend in terms of English and what the future tense means. It just means I'll do it, and I haven't done it yet, but I will do it soon, right? Some of you are saying that to me. I will learn my vocab, Steve, right? Okay, I don't want that sentence, right? Let's learn the past tense about how you have learned your vocab, but I will do it. I will smash my Greek quiz on Friday, right? It's what's going to happen in the future. I will untie. I will teach. I will walk. I will do life without a mask at some stage in my life. Again, I will, right? Things that are going to happen in the future, hopefully. Or I'm going to. Yeah, sure. I think that'd be fine. But let's just stick with will, right? Nice and easy. I will untie. That's how you're going to translate future tense. That's all there is, really. Present tense, untie. Future tense, I will untie. Nothing too hard to understand about the grammar of the future tense, yeah? It's happening in the future. Question is, how does Greek tell you that the verb is going to happen in the future and that it's not happening now? Well, like everything we've looked at so far in Greek, how's it going to do it? What do you think? It's going to change the endings, yeah? It's going to change the endings, and we're going to have a set of endings that are telling us that this verb is actually a future verb rather than a present verb, right? And so we're going to need to learn a whole new paradigm. But don't panic, because there's some good news, particularly when it comes to the future tense verb. But before we do that, let's just go back here. This is what we've learned so far. We've learned the present active indicative verb, and we've learned this. We're happy with this. Everyone knows this now, right? This is a safe space, isn't it? We feel very comfortable. Luo, luais, luai, luomen, luete, luusen, right? That should be a very safe space to you. I assume today, right this second, that if I was to hand you your quiz for Friday, and my question was, please write out the present active indicative paradigm for luo, you would all get 100%. That is my assumption. If you're sitting there right now and going, I don't know if I get 100%, I don't know if I know that, then you've got work to do, right? You should know this by now. You really should. Luo, luais, luai, luomen, luete, luusen. Nice and easy, right? Okay? Okay. Happy space, safe space, feeling good about it. Let's look at the future active indicative paradigm then. And just watch what happens. Just watch what happens on the board here. Just watch. Watch this. This is cool. Watch how easy it is. It's so easy. Ready? Present. Future. Present. Future. Present. Future. What do I do? Present. To go from the present to the future. What's the difference? It's just a sigma. That's all you got to do. Present, do you know that? Yes. Future, you know that too then. Because all you have to do is add a sigma to it, right? Easy peasy, right? Buy one, get one free. There's nothing complicated about this at all. Nothing to hide, nothing up my sleeve. Actually, there's a bit up my sleeve. We'll come to that in a second, right? But the future active paradigm, there it is. It's easy peasy. I expect right now, this second, that if I gave you your exact quiz on Friday, and in your quiz I said, please write out the future active indicative paradigm of luo, you'd all get 100% already. Because it's that easy, right? It's that easy. You just add a sigma. That's all you got to do. It's not luo, it's luso. It's not luais, it's lusais. It's not luai, it's lusai. It's not luomen, it's lusomen. It's not luete, it's lusete. And it's not luusen, it's lususen. Easy peasy, right? Put a sigma in there and it's done, right? Shove a sigma in me and call me tomorrow, right? That's basically all you got to do. Put a sigma in there and you've got the future. Easy peasy. Luso, lusais, lusai, lusomen, lusete, lususen. That is all we got to do. It is there for you. It comes for free, basically. Okay, so that's pretty simple, right? As far as it goes. It doesn't get much easier than that. But there is a bit of a but here. There is something up my sleeve. There is a bit of a problem. Because what tends to happen when I add that sigma, well, it's all good and well when it's with luo, right? Because luso, lusasai, no problems at all. But there are some other letters at the end of the stem that when I add that sigma next to it, they get a little bit upset. And things happen. They're going to change things up a little bit. Right? If stem ends in some particular letters, when I try to put that sigma next to it there, then there are some letters that get upset when you do that, right? And a few things are going to change as a result of that. So you see what we're doing here? We're adding a sigma to our endings, and so when our stem, if it's just lu, okay, fine, no problems. One of the reasons why we like luo, it's our favorite word to learn from, right? There's no problems there. But if the stem of this word here ends in some other letters, those other letters don't like that sigma, and there's going to be problems. So what we need to do is we need to learn some rules for adding that sigma suffix, is what we call it. A suffix is just an ending, right? What happens when we add that sigma to some letters? Some letters are going to get upset, and there are going to be some changes going on. So these are rules for adding sigmas. If the stem of the verb that we're trying to put in the future tense, the stem of the verb that we're trying to add a sigma to, if the stem ends in a pi or a beta or a phi, if the stem ends in a pi or a beta or a phi, and I try add a sigma to it, then I'm actually going to end up with psi. Which you can sort of understand. It's like p and s, just as ps, right? Okay, that's what's going to happen. So I'm not going to have a pi sigma when I put that future in there. They're just going to merge together, and I'm going to end up with psi. And I'm not going to have a beta sigma. They're just going to merge together, and I'm just going to end up with a psi, right? And same with phi and sigma. Okay? That's if the stem of the verb ends in one of those three letters. Yeah? We add the sigma to it, it magically becomes psi. If the stem of the verb ends in t or d or th or z, right? If the stem of the verb ends in tau or delta or theta or zeta, when I try add the sigma to that, the sigma is such a bully and it just chases the others away, right? They run away, disappear. And we'll just be left with the sigma. If the stem of the verb ends in t or d or th or z, then the sigma will actually chase it away. And you'll just be left with the sigma. If, and this is the last one before you panic, if the stem of the verb ends in a k or a g or a ch or a s, double sigma, then when we add the sigma to it, we get ks. Again, kind of understandable in one sense, if you think about it. If I get k and I add s to it, then I get ks. Right? So we just changed that. They will morph in and they'll become chi. Right? We'll get that xy kind of sound. Ks. Okay, these are our rules for adding sigmas at the end of our verbs. When, say for instance, we want to turn it into a future tensed verb. Right? Okay? It's a few simple rules. Pi, beta, theta plus sigma going to give you psi. Tau, delta, theta, zeta plus sigma going to run away, you're just going to be left with the sigma. Kappa, gamma, chi, or a double sigma. With a sigma, you're going to get chi, right? Okay? Simple rules. Let's take it nice and slowly, and let's apply those rules for a bit, and let's see how this might work out, right? So let me just give you a few examples. We'll work them through nice and easy together, try and see how they work, right? So if, for instance, I had the present tense of blepo. Blepo means I see, right? But I want to say, I will see. I want to say it in the future. Then what do I need to do? I need to add that sigma ending, don't I? But you can see what rule, you just wrote all the rules down, what rule is going to apply in this instance. I got blepo, so my stem ends in a pi, a p, right? So I've got to go back to rule number 1 that I just gave you, right? Rule number 1 is p plus s gives you ps, right? Pi plus sigma gives you psi. So what would the future tense of blepo be? It would be blepso. It'd be blepso. Okay? Because the pi at the end of the stem here met with the sigma of my future ending, and I got psi. Do you see how that works? Just using this to apply the rules here. Yeah? You with me? Do another one. If I had baptizo. Baptizo. Do you know that vocab word yet? Even if you don't know it, anybody want to have a guess what it might mean? I baptize. Yeah, there we go. You guys are brilliant. Baptizo. But I just want to say I baptize or I am baptizing. I want to say I will baptize you in the future. Then I want to change that to the future tense. Now the stem of baptizo ends in a zeta, yeah? It ends in a z, a zeta sound. So I've got to go to rule number, have a look at your rules. Stem ends in a zeta, rule number 2, yeah? And rule number 2 says if the stem ends in a zeta and I put a sigma to it, then what happens? The zeta runs away, right? And you're just left with the sigma. So I have baptizo, present tense. I'm going to have, the future tense is just going to be baptizo. Yeah? Baptizo. While we're there, let me take the opportunity to highlight to you how important it is to know your vocab. Yeah? Because if you don't know the difference between baptizo and baptizo, when you're out in the wild, you have no chance of knowing which one's which, right? So you need to know your vocab. You need to know it well. You need to know it well enough that to know baptizo is spelt with a zeta, right? Baptizo. So that when I see it with a zeta, I'll know that's the present tense. But when I see it with a baptizo and a sigma, you'll know, hang on, what's going on here? That doesn't look like baptizo. That's the vocab word I learned. I know what's going on here. That zeta's disappeared and it's been placed with a sigma because this is the future tense. Yeah? But the only way you're going to know that is if you know your vocab well enough to know how baptizo is spelt, right? Okay? So you've got to know that. Got to know your vocab. Got to know your vocab well. Should we do another one? Just try and see how this works out. Anoigo. Anoigo. The stem of anoigo ends in a gamma. What's going to happen when I try to add a sigma to a word, the verb whose stem ends in a gamma? Well, I've got to go back to my rules, and it's rule number 3 this time. Look at that. Wow, can you imagine? Rule number 1, 2, and 3. What are the chances? Okay, gamma plus a sigma gives you a x, right? It gives you chi, right? It gives you that x sound. So the future tense form of anoigo is going to be anoixo. Yeah? By the way, can you starting to see why I kept saying to you, what's the vocab word hiding behind this word? And you kept saying to yourself, why does Steve keep asking that stupid question? It's pretty obvious what vocab word it is. Okay? Kept asking that stupid question because I'm trying to get you in the habit, because I know what you don't know, and that is these words are going to start hiding a lot better than they were before, right? It's like when your kids grow up playing hide and seek. They start off playing hide and seek like this, and then they start crawling into little holes in the cupboards and you can't find them for days, right? Okay? So, yeah. And then when you got 4 kids, you're like, you don't even notice that one of them's missing, right? Okay, so I had a family at our church that I was a minister at. They had 5 kids, and these guys were great. They're an awesome family. They still are. They're amazing people, really keen. The kind of people you always want in your church. The kind of people who turned up to church with 5 kids 15 minutes before the start of church every single week because they wanted to be there, to be organised, they wanted to meet people, they wanted to engage and greet people if anyone new came. They're the kind of people that these guys are, right? They were awesome. And then they turn up to church one day and they're like 20 minutes late. They're like halfway through the service they turn up and they rock in and they're kind of like a bit embarrassed and everything like that. And so anyway, I was chatting to them after church. I said, you guys okay? Like, you just... everything all right? I noticed you guys were a bit late today. I'm like, not that there's a problem, but just checking you're okay because you're always here. Yeah, the dad says, yeah. We had a bit of a problem. I said, oh, what's up? He says, well, we were halfway to church when we realized that we didn't have Ollie, which is their youngest kid, who was 3 and who was just at home by himself. Because like, come on, we're going to get to church. Oh, God, everybody in the car, good, woo, let's go. And they totally left their little kid at home. So it happens, right? Okay, anyway, sorry, I digress. All right, anoigo, right? Gamma plus a sigma gives you psi, you get anoixo. And the reason why I told you that story is because these verbs are getting better and better at hiding, right? They are getting better at hiding. And you need to be able to recognize what's the vocab word hiding behind it, even though it's getting such good at hiding. Akuo, all right? Akuo. Stem ends in what? Stem ends in an upsilon. Is that part of our rules? Nah. So akuo is going to be nice and easy, right? It's just going to be akuso. No problems there, no rules that we need to worry about, no letters that are going to cause us problems. Okay? Do you see how this is working, right? Future tense, just have to add a sigma to our paradigm and we've got it. Down pat, easy peasy, not too confusing at all. But that little sigma is pesky with some letters and they'll cause a problem. So we've just got to get our head around those sigma rules, make sure that they're in our head as well, and then we'll be perfectly fine for being able to figure out what is going on and noticing our future tense verbs as opposed to present tense verbs, right? We're not going to get tricked by that sigma. Everybody happy with that? Any questions about anything to do with the future tense verb at the moment? Or the adding of that sigma or anything like that? Okay, that's pretty much all there is to know about the future tense though, right? Okay? Easy peasy. Not too bad, not too hard to understand in terms of the grammar. It's happening in the future. I will untie. Not too hard in terms of the paradigm at all. just add a sigma to it and we've got it. Easy peasy, done. Just got those pesky little letter confusions, but apart from that, we're okay, nice and easy. Okay, so, Duff. We're on page halfway practice, page 71. I'm on page 71 of Duff. I'm in the halfway practice at the top of page 71, and I'm looking at questions 2 and 4 and 7. Halfway practice, top of page 71, questions 2 and 4 and 7. Let's see if we can get these done before we get to morning tea. Question 2, question 4, question 7, halfway practice, page 71. Let's give those a crack. Let's give you a few minutes just to work on those by yourself. Try and see. They're nice, simple little phrases. Try and get our head around just how this future works and what it looks like. Yes, our to is the noun. I just realized I could turn my microphone on. That'll help you hear me easier. Our to is the noun. Yes, this is not the reason. Anybody gonna get it? Jasmine looks like she's close. There's no object. There isn't an object. Why is there no object? Why is there no accusative? There's lollies on the line for anyone who gets it. For glory. Looks like I'm getting the lolly. Woohoo! Because remember, we learned the other day that there are a handful of verbs that are exception verbs. There are a couple of verbs that like to take the dative. And there is a verb that likes to take the genitive as well. Yeah? There's a verb that always gets followed by a genitive noun. What was that verb? Akuo. It's one of our exception verbs. It always gets followed by the genitive. Yeah? We talked about this the other day. It's an exception verb. We had pistuo followed by the dative, remember? And lego and laleo followed by the dative. And we also learned another vocab word the other day, proskuneo followed by the dative. And we've got akuo followed by the genitive. They like to take, akuo likes to take the genitive. 4 exception verbs that should be on your radar of things that do things differently. Gift, are you pointing at me or are you raising your hand?
I'm just like, is the vocative good or is not the one?
No, it's all good. Nominative, genitive, no. But the reason why it's genitive is because akuo likes to take the genitive. Because remember, we're actually saying he will hear the voice of him. But we don't say he will hear the voice of him. We just say he will hear him. Remember? We talked about this last Thursday or something like that.
Question would be noted that it's one of the exception verbs which likes to take the genitive.
Yes.
But in translating, we pick him because what I'm trying to get is ideally if you say when you look at the how to, it would ideally be sitting under the genitive which is.
It is the genitive.
But we should pick him, which ideally would be the accusative. So is it because we're looking for an object in that sentence, in the way it's coming up? Or
It's because we do have an object in this sentence. The object is just in the genitive because akuo likes to take the genitive, because it's an exception verb. Yeah? That's why we're saying it. All right? So we're not going to translate this particular genitive. Usually when I say genitive, you say, right? But not after akuo. Because akuo is an exception verb, right? This is why we learnt it as an exception verb the other day. Akuo likes to take the genitive. So when it's followed by a genitive, we're just going to translate it as if it was the object of the sentence, because akuo likes to take the genitive. Yeah? Because I say, I hear Jotham. I don't say, I hear of Jotham, even though I'm saying, I hear the voice of Jotham. You with me? We just say, I hear Jotham. So it's the same thing here, right? Akuo takes the genitive. It's an exception verb. That's why. We've got 4 of them now that should be on your radar to just keep an eye on and go, yes, they like to take the genitive or they like to take the dative rather than the accusative that we'd expect. Yeah? Okay, next one quickly. These words are pretty easy. Lusomen ploion. Find my verb first. Here's my verb. Oh, look at that, and it's luo even. Nice and easy. So I've got my ending here. Somen is my ending. So talk to me about this verb in the way I like to be spoken to about verbs, Tashwell. Lusomen. It's future. Future, active. Lusomen. Luso, lucis, luci, lusomen. So it's future active indicative. First person, plural. Yeah? So how am I going to translate lusomen then, Tashel? If it's future active indicative first person plural of luo, it'll be? First person plural for starters. First person plural, not I. There's more of us. We, and it's future. 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 We will untie. Future. We will untie. What are we going to untie? Toploy on the boat. This is accusative object. We will untie the boat. Okay, last one, quickly. Pos, apolusis alter. Here's our verb. Apolusis. Vocab word hiding behind it. What's the vocab word hiding behind it? Jasmine, help me out this time. Oh, yeah, but what's the actual Greek word? Apoluo, and it means I divorce, yeah, I set free. Okay, talk to me about this verb in the way I like to be spoken to about verbs. Apolusis. Future. Sice. Nice. Future active indicative, second person singular. So how would I translate the future active indicative, second person singular form of apoluo? You will set free. You will divorce. Yeah. You will divorce. Alter. What case is it? It's feminine, accusative, and singular. And so how do I translate the feminine accusative singular of the third person pronoun? Her. And what about this word out the front here? Pos. How. It means how, doesn't it? So let's go with, and note the punctuation at the end. Everybody notice that? That's a question mark, isn't it? So the answer is, how will you divorce her? How will you divorce her? And the question is that. The answer is, you won't divorce her, because marriage is for life. What God has joined together, let no man separate. You won't divorce her. No way. Don't even think about it. You marry someone that's for life. Simple as that. Okay, we're good? Let's have some morning tea. Let's come back at, I stole 5 minutes from you here, so let me give you 5 minutes again. So let's come back at 20 past, yeah? Big hand on the floor.